Good day and welcome America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports in the Briefing. Good news as it relates to the Epstein files. Since I last spoke with you on the program, on the broadcast, near unanimous vote, one holdout, one congressman from the GOP side voted no. The entire Congress, meaning the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, with that one exception, voted yes to the full release of the Epstein files. So something to cheer about, something to be, quite ecstatic and euphoric over, and I am. So the vote was 427-1 in the House. The Senate was unanimous. So with the exception of one Nimrod, one numbnut, everybody did the right thing. Even Trump, who was forced kicking and screaming, wrangling and utilizing every obstacle and obfuscation, did a U-turn reversal, but he saw that the freight train, the avalanche, was to such a degree that it was unstoppable. And he has become an astute political creature, realizing when he doesn't have the cards. And so that's the only reason was the MAGA heat, the political pressure that was exerted that got him to do the right thing. He didn't just have an epiphany, or he didn't simply have, a revelation and decided that he had, pangs of moral conscience to do the right thing. That's not what happened here. So the Speaker of the House defied the will of the people, the MAGA nation, and did not allow for months to swear in the lone Democrat that was going to be the final signature on a discharge petition. But again, more and more pressure was exerted. There were other things happening in D.C. that absolutely required that he bring the House back, and that there would be a vote. And so after the swearing in, the discharge petition was signed. Then that set the wheels in motion for the vote, and the rest is history, so they say. But this is a huge, big step. It is a monumental achievement, unparalleled. I mean, it's so rare that you would have both houses of Congress, except for that one single holdout, that voted in unison to do the right thing. Truth, justice, and the American way. So it was worth our tireless efforts, but many more others that had tremendous, or I should say greater influence than here with us. But we tried to play our part in the assist. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Congressman Massey played a huge role, but so did certain key Democrats. And this was not a Democrat hoax. Sorry, Tyrant Trump. It has nothing to do with any hoaxes. The only hoax is that the one that you're trying to propagate and perpetrate. This is a legitimate issue, and it is a consequential issue. It is a moral issue. And thankfully, the tide turned, and Trump did sign the bill. So the political pressure, the MAGA heat, worked. That's the only reason that he signed this bill. With all the months of wrangling, all the months of the obstacles, the obfuscation, the excuses, the name calling, the threats, everything that he tried to do, and his administration that tried to do, they did not succeed. The Epstein Files Transparency Act has now been voted into law. And so what's in it? Well, The Hill did a pretty good story that talked about what it means, what's in it, and you can read that for yourself at The Hill. So who is this Clay Higgins, the lone standout? I'll get to him another time. I mean, I have to give a nod to Trump, regardless of the political pressure. He did sign it, and he did say prior to the vote that he was in favor of the release of the files. Now, again, that was political expediency and wanting to look like he could, kind of have revisionist history that he was always in favor of this, which he was not. I mean, he was all about resistance and political pressure, so this would not ever happen. So he did sign the bill, releasing those files after months of political pressure and fighting for his life. I mean, I guess we use the term hoaxing. I mean, really, that's what it is. Everything is hoaxing. Believing that if you just say the word hoax or fake, then people will follow and realize, oh, it's not a real issue, or you can't take that person or that organization or institution seriously. Epstein's brother said that Trump called Jeffrey after he was elected president to discuss that with him, to celebrate, I guess, with Epstein on the phone. Of all the people you could call, you would have this guy on your list, and you did this of your own volition? If that happens to be true or proved to be true, that's pretty damning, especially after he'd already been convicted of being a sex offender and sex trafficking. Even though the Epstein bill passed, there are top officials in the Trump administration circulating a plan to block the transparency due to so-called national security concerns. GOP senators warned Bondi not to slow walk this release of the Epstein files. GOP senators anxious that Trump DOJ won't release all the Epstein files and adds fuel to the fire. Democrats are on a full court press on the DOJ to release the files. Republicans frustrated with Bondi over Epstein. So Congress is finally standing up to Trump. And it's not just about the Epstein files. Margie Taylor Greene, MTG, has decided that she is resigning from Congress. Not retiring, but resigning. That does help preserve her pension. That's another issue. But the main reason is that it does not secure the seat. So that seat is going to be open and available in 2026. So I've had my issues with Margie Taylor Greene, but man, she's been so right on about many issues that she's confronting, that she confronted Trump on. And one of those happens to be the Epstein files and the trying to persuade Trump to talk with the survivors and to get him involved and get him, persuasively to do the right thing, and to no avail. Her influence did not work in that regard. And of course, then Trump resorted to all kinds of attacks on her and calling her a traitor and, just demeaning and trying to damage her in terms of her political career and her credibility as a politician and as a person. She decided, for the good of her family, good of her district, not trying to be primaried and have this a bloody, bruising battle, to just say, I'm out of here. So, after she finishes up this year, 2025, she's finished with Congress. But there is a lot of talk of her maybe running for president and running for other offices. And, she's got probably some kind of plan up her sleeve. But even though some on the right and left are suspicious of her motivations in terms of her going on the various media and things she has to say, but my view is that I think she's just trying to do the right thing. I think that she's more MAGA than Trump, and we're going to get to fake MAGA Trump. And the fact is that Trump has never been MAGA. It wasn't an original coined term. We discussed that before, and he's an imposter. I want to do a whole program on imposter Trump. And if there's anyone who's a traitor, it's not Margie Taylor Greene. It's Donald Trump, and how he's betrayed the cause, the movement, and our nation. And he's the furthest thing away from being America first. And I take that very personally, okay? I've been involved in this crusade, this mission, this movement for a long time. But still, I'm just astonished. The U.S. Senate unanimously voted for the release. The House, except for one knucklehead, voted for the release. So I guess Massey and Margie Taylor Greene and certain Democrats were right about this, that this is the right thing to do. And it's not a hoax, and it's something that should be applauded. And it shouldn't be a political issue. It should be non-political, non-partisan. There was a story that came out, I may have mentioned in the last program, but if not, it's worthy of note. Jared Kushner, Ivanka's husband, invited Jeffrey Epstein to a New York City party that was for the New York Observer, which was either a publication he owned or that he was the editor or the publisher, but very involved in that publication. But he was invited, Trump and Harvey Weinstein, in 2013. The Trump orbit was still having some involvement with Epstein. He wasn't completely and totally ostracized. And so more and more evidence is coming to light. How about Trump when he lied about the birthday card? I mean, who signs their name the way Trump does? And and then he said, I've never drawn anything. And then you find out that, yeah, he was drawing stick figures of buildings and things, a very similar pattern. So you just never know truth from fiction with Trump and revisionist history with Trump. And he wants us all to have amnesia and not think about what actually did occur and you just have to accept his word and his reality. It's like it's Trump's world, and we just live in it. And you have to be a devout, loyal, unquestioning, subservient serf under Trump. But yeah, the U-turn, the surprise reversal with Trump caving to the MAGA heat and the political pressure, phenomenal. And I think this is going to have a domino effect, because whether it's affordability, whether it's interventionist policies that Trump is now engaging in, whether it's the excessive use of tariffs, not strategically targeted tariffs, I think that many more Republicans are going to go, we're seeing you more as a lame ducker. You to stand up and lead the way, okay? Maybe a new path forward, and that you're not going to have as strict control and dominance over the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House. Now, it does appear that beyond the Epstein files, that there's more and more crises in the making, and that, just from recent elections, the trend line is now that Trump and the GOP is being looked upon in a very unfavorable light, and that midterms usually go with, or at least the opposing party usually makes gains, but they're saying this could be a tidal wave wipeout. And then I don't know what Trump's planning to do to protect himself this time around, but if those Democrats take control of the House, and it's such a narrow majority, and now that Green's left, that opens up another seat, and then others are, at least it's being discussed, are going to be following suit, not seeking re-election. This does not bode well. So we may have President J.D. Vance waiting in the wings if there is impeachment, or the health issues become more extreme. And then we'll have a puppet for the tech titans that put him in place when he ingratiated himself and infiltrated the MAGA movement. But that was with the help of, at that time, Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk and Don Jr. and Elon Musk. So people say, well, it's better to have Trump than J.D. Vance. It's like the lesser of evil is always going to be evil. So I think that if you have committed high crimes and you deserve to be outed, it could be the 25th Amendment, it could be impeachment, it could be health-related issues. But I don't know how Trump's going to protect himself from the House Democrats, and even the Senate could be at risk. So it's Trump is treading in some very dangerous waters, and with all his unsuccessful attacks in terms of his enemy list, in terms of his retribution campaign and tour, that these people are going to unite against him. And when they can take back their power, it could be a very dim and dark dawning of the day for him. Well, let's close on a positive note. MAGA heat, political pressure was successful. We had some heroes that stood up and took the lead, and the survivors can rejoice, at least to some degree, knowing that the truth will be told, that the victims and the survivors and the families may see some modicum of justice, but truth and transparency are important. It's a time to appreciate, and it's a time to rejoice that truth seemingly is prevailing, and that men and women of the United States Congress did the right thing. Trump was forced to do the right thing and reversed and did a U-turn. But nevertheless, except for one knucklehead, we're in unison that these files legally, lawfully, have to be released. And we'll continue on this because we know that there's going to be more kicking and streaming, and more redacting, and more censoring, and more covering up. And we just got to keep shining the light and turning up the heat, and not allowing other issues to trump this very important cause and this very important mission. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports in the Briefing. Have a great night.